Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my first update on my experience with the HP Omen 15 for 2021. Now this is a very budget-centric model, $1199 US. In fact, since I put up my unboxing, it already sold out. We've got an AMD Ryzen 5 5600H 6-core processor, an Nvidia RTX 3060, 16 gigs of RAM, which is upgradable, as well as a half terabyte NVMe SSD, also upgradable. In fact, there is a second bay. They surround the battery, and Wi-Fi 6 and a 15.6-inch 144 Hz refresh rate Full HD IPS panel. Minimal backlight bleed. Let's take a look and a listen to the performance of the speakers and display right now. Brightness, by the way, is all the way down. I will bring it up so you're able to see that. Speakers are at 100%. And now I'm just going to bring up the brightness so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see it's looking blown out now, and for good reason. Bring it back down. So what's the takeaway from this? I think clearly this Full HD 15.5-inch IPS panel is more than adequate. I think it's going to satisfy the majority of users, especially at this budget. And I think that overall so far, I am really impressed with the quality that HP has delivered, again, at a price point that is pretty much unheard of. The Ryzen processor performs most of its Intel counterparts in this class. And then, of course, the Nvidia RTX 3060 with a max TDP of 100 watts isn't going to perform the way you would find in a beefier gaming laptop that has max power, but it's still going to be able to give you great performance across the board, at least from what I've tested so far. So let's jump out of this. Another thing I want to talk about is the audio quality. So the audio quality that you just heard, I think, is perfectly fine. In fact, I think it's actually cleaner than what I'm getting out of the Lenovo Legion 5 Pro, which is also an excellent gaming laptop, also budget-oriented, although, of course, pricing has been all over the place. It is actually also on sale right now, but focusing on the Omen, the audio here is cleaner. I'm not getting any form of reverb. Build quality seems to be excellent. Again, we don't have one of those new 16-inch panels. HP has a different offering for that. But I still think this is going to appeal to a wide variety of users. You have the Omen software. You can play with, of course, performance here, fan speed, all of that good stuff. But more importantly, let's talk about how this thing is benchmarking. So right there, you can see my current TimeSpy score. For those of you who are wondering if I ran this plugged into the mains, of course, and in performance mode. And I went out of my way to manually set the fans to maximum just so that I could ensure that we were getting the best performance possible. Granted, it does get pretty loud. This is still a very good score. I mean, again, $1,200 US before tax. One of the things I like about HP is that if you decide to purchase a warranty from them, they will refund it if you don't end up using it. And that's something you will rarely find. I don't know of any other manufacturer that does that. So that's another good thing. But this is an admirable score. It means that basically most AAA titles that you're going to run, you're going to have no problem with. You can see right there, Battlefield 5 at 1440. This isn't 1440. Remember, 1080p Ultra, over 100 frames. Apex Legends, 135. GTA, over 75. Fortnite. I mean, it goes on and on. So the idea here is that the CPU, GPU, display, they are all going to work as they should. No bottlenecks, nothing holding you back. If you want something more premium, there are other options, of course, where you're going to spend a lot more money. But this, so far, in the time I've spent with it, brief, but still really impressive. It, at its price, I'm kind of in shock what HP, AMD, and Nvidia have pulled together in this build. Now, the keyboard is excellent. I am an HP keyboard fan. I also really like Lenovo. They both do some of the best work in the business when it comes to keyboards. But I have to say, I even like the font that HP went with here. Love that we have LED notification, well, not notification, but LEDs on the power button as well as the mute button. These are things more manufacturers need to step into doing. I'm not sure why they don't. It's just a simple convenience and something that we should have. Now, there is a webcam front and center, no privacy switch. So if you're wondering about that, it's absent. Why? I can't tell you, but of course that's easily fixed with a small magnet from Amazon, one of those little covers, and you're good to go. Not an ideal solution, but an easy way to supplant the fact that we do not have a dedicated switch for privacy. The webcam, not anything special. Again, this is the usual routine with most manufacturers. You can't expect much. But at 5.5 pounds without its power brick, again, performance from CPU, GPU, everything is in line. Let's talk about the Hynix 0.5 terabyte NVMe drive that comes with this. I was not surprised with its performance, some best-in-class overall capability, and that's why so many manufacturers, HP, among many others, my Asus G15, lean on Hynix for their 0.5 terabyte and 1 terabyte drives, because they do give some really impressive read-write speed, again, still inside of the current generation. We're transitioning to Gen 4 drives, but until then, this is still top of the line. So if you get this build with a 0.5 terabyte, you're not, unless you need more capacity, I will tell you from a read-write perspective, performance-wise, this is going to do everything that you want it to. You're not going to be upset with what comes stock. Of course, to me, a 0.5 terabyte is fairly small, but again, at this price point, really hard to beat the specifications and upgradability that this machine has to offer. I mean, HP does give you a pathway to really making this machine last longer, I feel, than many other manufacturers. My Asus G15 would be one that I'd point at. I love the G15, but the reality is that it doesn't feel like a machine that's made to last. Build quality here is surprisingly good, combination of aluminum and polycarbonate. The bezel at the bottom of the display, fairly thick, but I like the subdued overall look. The backlighting on the keyboard is not RGB. It's basic backlighting, and I think that's all that's really necessary. Some people will wish they had put in a numerical, keypad. I don't think it's a big deal that we don't have a numpad. I think that, again, the symmetry, the font, the key travel, the touchpad, everything works as it should. It's not a perfect machine. I would say right now, the drawback I can see very clearly is battery life. So if you're wondering what is the Achilles of the HP Omen 15 in this configuration, I have to point to the battery. So in my unboxing, I had said that I hoped we would see something around 5 to 6 hours. Right now, it's looking like 3 to 4 is realistic territory. Now, if you plan on never disconnecting this, you're not going to have a problem. If you plan on disconnecting this, you're going to have to at least understand that you're not going to be a road warrior with this machine. But again, we're still in a pandemic. If you're working from home, gaming from home, and this is going to stay docked, that's not going to be an issue. So what is left? I'm not seeing anything so far with thermals. Granted, I've only had a few days with the machine, but everything looks fine. Nothing looks stressed. If I had to point to some critiques, because I've given a lot of praise to this machine, I would say that at its price point, again, hard to really be incredibly critical of what HP has brought together, but the I/O is on the fairly weak side. I'm going to show that to you right now, and I think that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. But again, fit and finish, really like, no question about it. The color scheme, I'm not at all bothered by the Omen logo. I don't care that we don't have something lit up here. That bothers me more than anything in a lot of cases. But when I say the I/O, it's not that HP hasn't thought of giving you basically everything you need, because they have. I mean, you have Type-C with power delivery, so you can charge this using a traditional Type-C 65 watt or higher. You have DisplayPort out, you have two Type A's, nothing on the back except ventilation, and on the bottom for that matter. And then on the other side, we have the dedicated power port. Now, in terms of charging, what HP has estimated for the dedicated charging time is accurate. So about an hour and a half is where I'm sitting right now to get a full charge out of this. Ethernet, another Type A port that also supports power delivery, HDMI out, audio combo jack, and a full-size SD card slot that I love. Now, would I have liked to have seen another Type-C port on this? Sure. But again, even if I were to be critical of the I/O on this machine, I feel like I'm being unfair considering its $1,200 price tag. Now, if this were sitting at $1,500 or $1,600, that would be another story, but it's not. It's a $1,200 machine, and there's a reason it's sold out basically instantly since I posted it. I mean, it had been in stock for a few days, but I guess enough people caught up with the fact that it was in stock. You can easily open this, if that wasn't already obvious, with a single hand. So if that's something you're looking for, you're not going to have an issue there. And again, right now it's looking like battery life and basically the one thing I've noticed in the build quality that is not a problem, but is this right here. If you pick up the machine at the back, near in between the hinge, you can see that flex that's happening. Now, I don't think that's a problem. I think it's something you have to be aware of. It's not something, any of us are necessarily accustomed to. I don't know if the previous Gen Omen also had a similar design, but that seems to be a weak spot in the display. It's just something to be aware of. I don't think it's a QC concern. I don't think it will end up being a problem. Again, I think this machine is well made. It just gets a little bit loud. And right now it seems like battery life could be better, but of course it is what it is at $1,200 US. So I think the Omen 15, again, in this flavor with the AMD, 5, the Ryzen 5 5600H is a steal. If you want a video, photo edit, you're not going to have any problems. Is this, something you should be looking at? If it's going to be a workstation, no. But for many of you, if you're on a budget, I still think this is going to be able to deal with the majority of gaming and productivity work, and of course, photo and video editing. Can you get more performance for more money? Absolutely. I mentioned this in my unboxing. If you're willing to spend several $100s more, you will be able to get a 8-core Ryzen CPU. You'll likely possibly also be able to pull a 3070. The question is, it's all about accessibility. What can you get right now? So many things are in and out of stock at such a high rate that when I posted this had been in stock, I think, for about a week or two. And if this was what you were looking for, it was a steal. Now that it's sold out, people will look to other things. I'm sure HP is going to bring it back, though, because, again, at its price, it appears to be a winner. So, battery life aside, there's not much to dislike here about the Omen. I think that they've done a really nice job, and even though this isn't my full review because I haven't spent enough time with it so far, the only thing I'm really critical of is, again, battery life and only having one Type-C port. But otherwise, Wi-Fi performance has been really good. No problems there. And, there's bloatware, but you're going to get that from all of the big box manufacturers like HP, like Lenovo, like Dell. The only way to get around that is clean installs that you do yourself or through the Microsoft Store. They inherently do clean installs on all of their machines because they're aware. So, look, I think it's a good buy. And of course, I will include a link in the description for those of you interested in purchasing it, but I know right now it is out of stock. And if you're interested in a comparison between this and the Legion 5 Pro that I have back there, that is in the works, so no worries. Sooner than later, you're going to see that comparison. But again, they are in different leagues. Of course, this can be spec'd out a little bit higher to get closer to that, but really, because this has the 15.5-inch panel of yesteryear, and that sports the new 16-inch 1600p 165 hertz IPS panel, that alone, without taking into account the internal hardware, already I think makes it a very different machine. And I will put them side by side because I think a lot of people are going to look to these two in order to figure out, let's see if I can even get to it, which machine is really right for them. I personally, right now, think that if budget is what you're after, clearly the Omen is basically impossible to beat. It's too inexpensive, which is a good thing. I mean, at 1,200 US dollars, that isn't something to complain about. But, you know, in the long run, will you get more out of the Legion 5 Pro versus the Omen? It's a matter of personal preference. They're close on battery life, they're close on pricing, but of course, the Legion 5 Pro has a little bit more on that spec sheet. So again, I'll save that for another comparison, but interesting times for gaming laptops, no question about it. We've got a lot of choices, a lot of different price points, and a lot more availability than the desktop sector. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.